Hello. Actually, I just need to make a simple statement on what is happening in Sudan and what is prospective or what is the future look like for Sudanese. Actually, I do believe that right now Abdul Wahid and Abdulaziz Al Hilouzi should work together. They need to form a coalition government, a coalition military, so as to take over Sudan. As long as we have been away from power for almost 100 years, and we can no longer blame the oppressors, because I don't think oppressors will give you a power for free. We need to struggle for it. We need to fight for it, despite the fact that we have been fighting for it for quite long, almost 25 years right now. And therefore, South Sudan is a fought for 40 years. And I do believe right now the atmosphere or the condition of the country is calling for change. How are we going to change the situation in Sudan? It's very simple. I myself, I'm not a strongly believer of democratic process. I am very fan, or my ideology is dictator for good. Don't get me wrong. There's a dictator for bad and there's a dictator for good. What do I mean dictator for good? A dictator for good is someone who has ideology and based on the country's chaotic, because it's really harder to bring all people on under one table so as to decide on one thing. So only one person has to take a lead. We do have many dictators for good has or have been very successful throughout the history. Most recently in some countries like we have in Rwanda. So Rwanda's government right now is, you can see Paul Kagame is doing better than any other country in Africa. Even Ghana, if you see right now Ghana, there was John Rawlings. John Rawlings was a military dictator, but he was a dictator for good, not for bad. So you need to absolutely, you need to differentiate what is dictator for good and dictator for bad means. So Ghana will not be a Ghana right now without a dictator for good. So dictator for good is someone who has a vision. You must be visionary. Secondly, you must have a vision for country's development, as well as accountability. So you need to help people accountable. That is why what I mean here in Sudan, we need someone who is a dictator, so as at least to hold those people accountable. You cannot have criminals walking freely without any accountability. And democratic processes doesn't work for those people because they are everywhere and they take in charge of everything. So it needs somebody who can come and take over the government, and then first and foremost, there must be accountability. You need to launch accountability for those people who committed crimes, not just crimes in Sudan or in Darfur or even in Nuba Mountain, throughout the history, because those people, they are responsible. For example, Omar Bashir and his alliance and many former president of Sudan, they did a lot of terrible things in the history of Sudan. Almost 3 million South Sudanese, they have been killed by different government of Khartoum. Till now, nobody has been held accountable. Therefore, right now, the recent statistic is more than 1,500,000. So it's nobody held accountable. I myself, I don't believe in international community whatsoever. I don't believe in ICC. I don't believe in International Court of Justice or whatever justice they are. I do believe we need to change these things by our own. We need to take the charges by our own. International community cannot do anything for us. We have been seeing for almost 20 years right now, whenever anything happens, the only statements that they are making that they are sorry, they are deeply worried what is happening on or what is going on. That is very boring. Secondly, they are not charging anybody. So till now, who has been charged in ICC? Nobody. It's only one person that he actually voluntarily he subjected himself to ICC, Koshep. But for us, what I mean here right now, we need to have a coalition government between Abdul Wahid and Abdulaziz Al Hilu, because I do believe that those two leaders, they have charismatic leadership skills, they have very powerful military, they have logistical support. I don't think there is anything right now we are lacking. it's much easier for us to take over Sudan. Secondly, what is next after Sudan? When they took over Sudan, there's things that, or there's absolutely some areas that we need to drastically change. The first things that need to be changed in Sudan is the Sudanese flag. Sudan flag is not representative, has nothing to do with whatsoever to Sudanese people or African people. We need to have a flag that is representative to Sudanese and African people. The current flag of Sudan is ban Arab flag, which is disgrace. It's terrible. We cannot have a Sudan which is completely an African country and you're carrying a flag of ban Arabs. Because right now you cannot differentiate between, it's really hard for somebody even to differentiate between the flag of Palestine and the flag of Sudan or United Arab Emirates. So almost alike. So what we need to have our own flag that is representing Sudanese people and African people. The second thing that we need to reform, we need urgent reform of education system. So education system in Sudan throughout the history has been manipulated through those Khartoum leaders so as to pass their ideology. So education in Sudan has become as a vehicle where you can pass your ideology, whether it's Islam ideology or whether it's Arabized ideology. So that is why you cannot find most of Sudanese people right now today, they are not competitive. You can graduate from engineering, but you have no skills or whatsoever, because what you learn there is not true education actually. Most of international communities, they say, or everybody knows that education system is important, but we have never been told which education is important, because there is some education even brings brings harm more than benefits. So that is why we need to have education systems that is effective, and it is completely to liberate education system from whatsoever like ideologies. We don't need to mix between education and ideologies. So we need to have education that is truly Sudanese, to represent Sudanese people and to represent African people. Secondly, what we need is we need to reform our media. We cannot have a media that is just representing one single ethnicities or the people of Khartoum. That is why most of people in Sudan is just known by Khartoum people. Most of people around the world, they have no idea that Sudan is multi-ethnicity. They think that is only the certain people that they have seen on the screens that are only representing Sudan, but that is not. So that is why what we need to take over, we need to reform the media of Sudan as well. We need to have a media that represents Sudanese people and to represent what is going on not just around Sudan, even around the continent of Africa. So that is why most of us, we don't, if you ask anybody from Sudan, they cannot even count your 5 African countries, which is shameful. That is why we need to have a media that is representing our neighbors and our continent as well. The third thing is we need to ban African language from the education system. We cannot have education systems that the language of instruction is Arabic language. I have no problem with Arabic language, but it shouldn't be in education system. For me, Arabic language is just like any other colonial language. It's just like Spanish, it's just like English, it's just like French. So if I have been given an opportunity, which language you should pick in colonial languages, definitely I will go with English language. Why I'm saying so? I'm saying in English language because English is no longer interested even to disseminate their ideologies, because through colonial times they had done more than what they wanted. So right now they are not interested. But Arabic language is still is colonial language and they are still alive. So till now Arabic language is used as a vehicle so as to pass Arab ideologies. And for us, we are not interested on that. What we need to do right now is, firstly, I need to develop Nubian language. So the Nubian language must be the official language of Sudan. How we're gonna do it? Absolutely, we need to start from the kindergarten, from basic schools up to university. We need to launch this Nubian language. Why I'm saying so also is Nubian language is one of the historic language and oldest language. I don't see there is any justification that why we are not learning Nubian language. Assyrian language they used to learn in their Assyrian, and do respect that. Somalis people, they still learning in Somali language. So why we cannot learn our own language, which is Nubian language? That is why I think Nubian language it should be part of education system. Gradually, we will have Nubian language throughout the country, and throughout all the educational structure should be in Nubian language. In parallel, we will introduce as well English language should be in parallel, because as long as we need to have students as they go overseas to learn new things, then English language is critically important as well. But I don't think we need any level of Arabic language in education system. We cannot. So that is why I myself I think Arabs or Arabic should be completely eliminated from education system. What else we need to reform? We need to reform our true history. So the history of Sudan is not an easy. One of the first civilization, not just in Africa but around the world, the first civilization is absolutely Nubian civilization. We need to have this civilization. We cannot have education systems that is not representing our own civilization. I was shocked when I visited UK museums. You can find our civilization even is celebrated outside more than inside. That is why for me one of my objective is, one of my vision is, I need to see education system has been changed, the flag of Sudan changed, and Arabic language should be banned from language of instruction. And thirdly or fourth, we need to have history, should be true history, and should be embedded in all education systems, so as you will be at least aware who you are and where you come and where we are heading. So this is very simple statement that I wanted to share with you, and see you next time. Thank you.